are. This incredible organ that we carry with us pretty much everywhere we go is pretty incredible. We have about 200 billion neurons in our brain. And think of the world's population, that's a mere 7 billion. And we have hundreds of trillions of connections in our brain. And if we imagine all the stars in the Milky Way galaxy, there are more connections in our brain than all of those stars combined. So it is through this incredibly complex organ that it helps us understand the world. It filters our perceptions, not only of ourselves, but of others, of the world, and of our place in that world. And what is also amazing is that no two brains are exactly identical. If you look at the person sitting next to you, and you notice the physical differences between yourselves. You have different shapes of nose, different eye color, height. There are more differences between your two brains than all of those physical differences combined. So really, it is our brain that makes us uniquely who we are. And my journey begins with really trying to understand what was wrong with my brain, not necessarily knowing that it was the brain at the time. And what we know now is this whole concept of neuroplasticity, which really means that yes, our brain shapes us, but we have now the knowledge and the tools to harness the changeable nature of the brain to actually shape our own brain. So we're not necessarily left to live with cognitive limitations, as I was told I had to do in grade 1. And the stories in this book are very personal, my personal journey and struggles, and they're universal in that we all have a brain, and we all have our own unique cognitive profile. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses, not necessarily at the level of severe learning disabilities, but at a level that there are things that we excel at, and there are things that we tend to avoid because we're not strong in those areas. I had a number of parts of my brain that weren't working properly. One really critical one was the part of the brain that processes and understands language. So if I listened to people talking, a lot of times it sounded like a foreign language. If there was anything abstract, I couldn't understand it. I could not make connections. So my world was very fragmented, almost like a series of puzzle pieces that never came together to bring understanding. So that was my life growing up. And a lot of people wonder, why didn't I give up? But I was very blessed. My father was an inventor and was passionate about the creative process. And he instilled in me an attitude that if there's a problem and there's no solution out there in the world, your job is to go out and find a solution to that problem. And then the other thing he taught me was that obviously to solve a problem, you first have to identify its nature because you have to know what it is that you're trying to solve. So my growing up was a quest for trying to identify what it was that was wrong with me. And then it was in the summer of 1977 that something really remarkable happened. I met a mind like mine. And this was a Russian soldier. His name was Zazetsky. And the difference between our minds was his was shaped by a bullet in World War II. Mine had been that way since birth. And now I had the source of my problem identified. I knew it was a specific part of my brain, the angular gyrus in the left hemisphere, that wasn't working. So that was the first step to then hopefully create a solution. But I want to just introduce you a little bit to Zazetsky through how I came to know him in the book.